This is how we went from this
to this.
Stay tuned to see how we got this job done. So the planting marathon has officially begun. We have a ton of stuff to get planted. It is June 2nd today, so really late by a lot of people in the country, but we are in Montana in Zone 4, and we had frost 2 nights ago and the night before that. So now we think we should be in the clear, hopefully, knock on wood, to get some stuff going. So what's the plan today?
We're going to get the greenhouse filled up with some tomatoes, cucumbers, melons. See, I don't know, a couple other things.
Yeah, watermelons. We are going to put sweet potatoes in here later, but they're not quite ready yet. They're slips and they are not ready. So those are not coming in quite yet. But as you can see, we have some stuff that's already starting here. If you're following our channel and you saw the way we started those tomatoes and we double tunneled them and we heated just them, they worked out great. They are doing great. We got those trellis, so they're doing a lot better than just sprawled out on the ground underneath tunnels. And we're getting tomatoes off of them, so that's awesome. We've been getting that since mid-May about, so that's been great. Over here, we have all of our tomato starts underneath what was a tunnel, but now it's open, obviously, as well as tomatoes kind of planted in there in the ground. So we have to organize first, and then we can start planting. We're going to be setting this up with drip, with 1/2-inch poly pipe, and just drippers at the base of every plant. And then eventually we will be trellising all the stuff that's going to be in here, so we can fit a lot in this tight space. This is not our only garden project. We also have another, how big is that garden? About 60 by 60?
60, yeah.
Yeah, 60 by 60 garden, and then a 200 by 100 foot plot, and a big cornfield. So you might be able to hear the tiller. My dad is tilling up part of that cornfield right now. So we're going to be planting that in 4 plantings, and the first one is getting tilled up right now, if you can hear that. Anyways, we should get going.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we have our poly pipe laid out right here. Here is our start point. There is a hose right in here, and then it's going to come this way. There's a T right here, T off, and then we will have our drippers running off of these down rows, what will be rows. Okay, so let's just do some cleaning.
The first thing that we had to do was clear out those tomatoes, and we just decided to put them outside. Then we sprayed down the greenhouse because, as you can see, it's super dusty in here. We ran the tiller lightly over the top, kind of to smooth everything out after we spread out some peat moss, and then it was time to hook up the irrigation lines. I am in the back out there sorting all of our tomato varieties. We have, I don't even know, 60 different tomato varieties that needed to be sorted and grouped, and I ended up pulling a row of cherry tomatoes, a bunch of different kinds of cherry tomatoes, and then a row of big, nice tomatoes that are like heirloom tomatoes, and then just some other garden favorites, I guess. And I'm going to get those all on a map so I know exactly where everything is. And we're kind of going to have an experiment because we have our tomato garden up the hill, and I made sure that we have the same varieties of tomatoes in the greenhouse and up the hill, so we can see what does better inside the greenhouse or outside in the field for the various varieties. Here I am going around adding everything to a map and kind of getting things tidied up for the night. But we still had to come back and water these tomatoes in here, and the onions that you can see too, and all the plants off to the side.
We are losing daylight. Everything is tidied up enough for tonight, and this is where we're going to call it. We have the tomatoes in here that are going to be going in here. We still have to get cucumbers and melons in here eventually, but right here will be the melon space, and we're not going to get them in here until all the tomatoes get out into the big garden up the hill. So this is where we're calling it for the night.
The next day, when we went to start planting cucumbers, we decided to put some cattle panel trellises in here right away before planting the cucumbers. This worked out pretty nicely, and so far we're pretty glad that we made this decision to go this route. Now it's time to plant the cucumbers, and these were all started from seed, so they are very ready to get into the ground.
2 days later, this is where our greenhouse is at. We are pretty happy about this work, considering this is not our full-time jobs or anything. You can see the drip has been laid out. Everything has gallon per hour drippers on it. We have planted tomatoes in these 2 rows, and I know it's going to be really tight, but we're going to prune and trellis to the ceiling or to these poles. And
indeterminate tomatoes.
Yeah, so they'll be okay for pruning. And then we have cucumbers started over here.
These are Bite Alpha cucumbers that we planted along the cattle panel here, and they are parthenocarpic, so they don't need a pollinator, and so they'll do well in a greenhouse. And you can eat them small or let them get bigger and use them like a slicer or pickle them when they're smaller. Done both. They were good.
They were pretty good.
And they produce a lot of fruit.
Yep, and we grew those last year, so we're going to make sure to grow those in here. We're growing a different kind of cucumber outside that need pollinators, but we made sure to put these in here. The space that we have over there, those 2 rows, that will also be, I'm thinking, for the cucumbers, the Bite Alpha, but we don't have those started yet, so we're going to be starting those seeds inside and then probably transplanting out here.
And we're going to try, since we've never grown a watermelon before, we're going to try to grow a watermelon inside here eventually.
Hopefully more than just a singular one watermelon. These 2 drip lines right here, back there, they are planted out tomatoes, and our tomatoes that we started in our tunnels. We started them probably in January, the tomato plants themselves. These ones over here, we made a video about double tunneling them in here and heating the space, and it worked great. You can see them. They are doing really well. We have fruit coming on them. Look, here's a couple right here. I'm going to leave them for my daughters to pick because they really like doing that, but there's a couple. We have some sun golds over here. And it's just kind of nice to have a little bit of stuff early. We planted a couple heads of lettuce beneath. Some of the tomatoes that are not varieties that get huge, I just left them to sprawl on the ground. Otherwise, we just recently trellised these, which was kind of not the most fun thing, considering they were just sprawled out on the ground. But we did get them up, and they are doing awesome. So these came out here a while ago. The tomatoes right here, those were also planted in this planting, obviously, but now everything is on drip, and it's going to be really awesome. I'm going to take you over to the other side over here. Real quick before I get there, you see we put cattle panels in here to trellis up the cucumbers. We do plan on pruning the cucumbers, and to get them on here, last year, it was such a pain. We drilled holes in the top of these T-posts to secure the panel with wire. This year, all we did, and I'm hoping it stays, is put a single, sorry, I have tomato hands, they're pretty gross, put a single wire right there and over the top, and it's looped down here, and it's holding the cattle panel up. And then there's other wire at the bottom, but we just put it on with wire this year, and so far, they seem to be pretty strong. Hopefully they work out. This was our second heated tunnel right here, where we did plant tomatoes in ground, and for a long time there, we were also had all of our start tomatoes, which are also over in the corner, which I'll show you in a minute, that are going out into the big garden up the hill. We had them kind of stacked in here alongside these tomatoes, so these tomatoes were really crowded and really didn't get an opportunity to grow. Pretty soon we will start trellising these, similar to the other side, but we need to put a pole in above to be able to do that. So we haven't got that done yet, but yeah, I'm really excited about the progress that has been so far. Right here, we have so many more tomatoes that are going up the hill, and what I did this time when I sorted them to put them in over here is I grouped them all. So this is a huge time saver for us when we have so many different kinds of tomatoes. Right now they are grouped, and every bin says what they are. So like right here, there's bush steak, and I know there's 9 of them in that basket, and I didn't mix varieties in these baskets. So that's going to be a huge time saver when we go to plant our big tomato garden. So right here, this is where we will be growing watermelons. We will also be growing sweet potatoes in big 55-gallon drums. Over here somewhere, we will probably hook drip up to it somehow so that we don't have to come and water that. But all that stuff needs room to have vines and everything. So that's what all of this will be over here once these get out of here. And over here right now, you can see we have a bunch of extra starts that were throughout the greenhouse, but these will be going out and getting planted very soon. We have some bean seeds that we did as kind of an experiment. These were grocery store bean seeds that we germinated just to see what they would do, if they would vine, if they would bush. And look, I see little beans. I see little beans starting right here. See that? Here's another one. Awesome. Okay, cool. So I'm real excited to plant. We have a mass amount of those to plant out in the garden, but I just kind of wanted to pot them up to see what they would do. So that's what those are doing there. We have a bunch of my husband's grafted trees over here that he's going to be deciphering what took and what didn't and planting those out. Some more starts that really go up in the other greenhouse until we get everything started. And then this area will eventually get cleared out, and this is where those sweet potatoes are going to go in pots. So all this space, we're hoping to really utilize it and really get a lot of stuff in here. So this is our first time growing in a greenhouse during the summer months. Normally, we've used our little greenhouse to just start our starts and give them a really good start, but we haven't grown in here throughout the summer. So we are facing a couple of challenges with this and just learning all of this. Do you want to talk about that?
This greenhouse was here when we bought the house and the property, and the sides don't roll up. The doors open up. There's a couple louver windows and a vent up top, but that's pretty much all the ventilation and two big, giant, like 1-horse fans. So I don't know how well it will stay cool when it's 90 degrees out.
Yep, so this thing can suck power a lot just to keep it cool. So that's going to kind of be our big thing coming up that we have to somehow overcome and see if it's going to be worth it to grow stuff in here to keep it cool enough so that it can grow so it's not 120, 150 degrees in here. The previous owners told us that growing in this greenhouse in the summer was like a $200 bill. And we all know that those prices are only increasing for electric. So that's going to end up being a lot of money and hopefully worth it. And we're going to see if we can adapt things to make it worth it. The other thing that we have to obviously think about is it gets extremely windy here. And sometimes when we're in here and it's windy, it feels like the whole thing's just going to blow apart.
Which kind of, when we don't have roll-up sides and stuff, it's kind of a blessing, might be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. We can't just leave all the doors open, leave the vents open all the time because it could literally just blow away.
We might run to the store and a big squall will blow up and we'll get 70-mile-an-hour wind and blow the whole top off. So.
Yeah. So our reason that we also wanted to grow tomatoes in here, we also have those tomatoes. So that's probably close to 300 tomato plants over there. But the reason we wanted to test drive growing tomatoes in here is because every fall when we go to pick our tomatoes to take them to the farmer's market, we always seem to get a fall rain or a bunch of fall moisture, and our fruit ends up splitting and cracking because it has too much water.
The fruit's just big, like almost fully ripened, and then you get an inch or two of rain, and it just cracks them. And they're not. People don't want to buy that.
Yeah, obviously, and we can't even take that to the market, so we just have to try to use them. And unfortunately, some goes to waste when you have so many.
We're wondering if maybe the plants will start producing really early and dwindle out before August, September this year. We don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a gamble we're going to take.
But hopefully just having this under a roof will prevent that issue that we've been having with the cracked fruit right at the end, right as we're going to harvest. And we'll be able to control things a little bit more. And that's what this is all about, trying to get the best harvest we can.
Yep. And we're trying to maximize the space. As you can tell, that's why everything's kind of cramped and crowded. It might not be the most comfortable picking and working situation, but it's not a very big greenhouse, so we're going to try to just get as much out of it as we can.
Yeah, and mind you, when we bought this greenhouse, it had black mat all over, and it had, I think, 6 to 8 raised beds.
8 raised beds.
8 raised beds, okay. Yeah. And they were, how big were they? Maybe
4 by 8.
Yeah, right about 4 by 8. So those were 4 by 8 beds, and this, I'm hoping we can end up producing a lot more produce than if we would have kept the raised bed. So if you're following our channel and you saw us rip those out and you went, what the heck, why'd they do that? We wanted to grow in this method, so.
One thing that I would really like to see out of this greenhouse is us growing tomatoes into later in the fall past our frost date. We have a heater back there, we can kick that on if we get a frost and keep some plants alive. If they make it that long, we might need to reseed some stuff or something, but that's one thing that I would really like to try to do this year.
Yep, and growing in Montana, the other thing is too, like certain crops we can't really grow that well, like the sweet potatoes and the watermelon. So we want to try to get a little bit of success with that as well and extend our season a little bit if we can. Yep. Anyways, if you like the kind of stuff we're putting out on your channel, if you want to see how this ends up going, how the other gardens end up going, how all the farm stuff ends up going, please consider liking and subscribing. Those of you who have been watching, We really appreciate it. If you want to leave a comment and tell us what kind of videos you want to see, we would gladly like to read them and maybe make some videos about those things.
Thanks so much for watching.